Hello friends, hello, good morning, good morning. Enjoying some coffee here. Thought I'd make a little video for you this morning. And yeah, so spring is here and I'm really stoked about that. You know, I just finished up my day job. I work a day job in the winter. I work solid, at least 45 hours a week. So that takes up consumes a lot of my life and a lot of my energy. But now that my seasonal winter job is over with, I've been able to spend some time getting organized here at Andy's World of Bass, and got everything all organized and cleaned up, and I'm looking forward to just diving back into my music. Everything that I do with music, playing gigs, and gigs are starting to come back, thankfully. And now that I have the time, I can do more videos and interact more with all the great supporters and followers. And yeah, so I was looking back through some of my videos, and I was really stoked to see that, like, throughout the whole winter, the most popular videos that I made were my lesson videos. And that's fantastic. That tells me that people are interested in learning and interested in growing in their playing, and whatever it is that I'm putting out there, has some value. So today we'll do another lesson video. And I'll just mention real quick at the top of the video, I'm playing my Reverend Decision P through the Gensler Magellan 800 head and the new Classic Series cabinets from Gensler. So I thought what I would talk about today is something that, I used to do a lot of bass clinics, and traveled all over the world doing bass clinics. And one of the topics that I talked about at every presentation or lecture, masterclass, bass clinic, every opportunity that I've ever had to speak in public to other bass players, I've talked about individual style development, because that's the thing where we become identifiable in our playing. It becomes our player personality and our individual voice. And in my case, I think it's like that with a lot of players, probably every player. My style is kind of the synergy of my influences and my inspiration throughout the years. So the players that I looked up to and listened to back in the early 80s, throughout the 80s, when I was first coming on to the scene playing the bass, I took a little bit from each of them and kind of put it in a pot, mixed it up, and that's where my style came from. It really comes down to into touch, you know what I mean? There's some things that I do, and I'm just going to go through and show you them, and then maybe that will help you kind of get an understanding of where I'm coming from in my playing. But there's several things that I do all the time, and I'll always do them all the time because that's my style. And this little handful of things that I do, I've refined over the last 40 years. And I've got to the point where it's just the way that I play. And because I've refined them, I execute it, confidently and without really thinking about it. It's just become my intuitive way of playing. The first is that I have left hand bends. Some of them are extreme. Where you really hear the bend, and there's a whole bunch of it where I'm doing it and it's just very subtle. Like that's got some bend in it. So really, the way that I think of that is that kind of came from playing upright and just trying to get the note to blossom and give it kind of help the note along, if you will. Now I can play with no bend at all to illustrate what it would sound like without that. Can't do it. But I can, you know, in certain situations, like in the recording studio, and if it's just like a really straight line. That's kind of just playing it absolutely straight, right? Okay, so then there's with some of those bends. Now the other thing that I do is this kind of repeating glissando. Coming to the note, put a little bend on it, and then I do like a hammer-on or a glissando. I'm kind of going down a half step and glissando, sliding into it. Oftentimes I'll do it from a half step below, but it happens real quick. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of ghost notes. Call that ghost triplet leading, where I set it up with the ghost note triplet. Dig-it-a-bop, boop, bop, beat, da, 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 dig-it-a-bop, bop, boop, 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 bop, boop, dig-it-a-bop, boom, boom, boom. Actually, that would be the way to sing it. It's like the dig-it-a-bop, boom, 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 dig-it-a-bop, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, dig-it-a-bop, beam, bo, ba, boo, ba, ba. So the pitches are preceded by that triplet, that leading triplet of ghost notes. The other thing that I do very commonly is I intentionally let some harmonic content come through. So in the place where I'm doing non-pitch specific ghost notes, I'll add pitches to the ghost notes. And I'll just let them, you know, I'll just kind of sprinkle that in there intuitively, not really even thinking about it, but it happens. Like right there. Instead of playing the octave, I played the harmonic. That one little harmonic there instead of a pitch. There's that ghost note triplet leading. And sometimes I'll do that with harmonics too. I'll do a lot of double stops. Trying to incorporate and always be introducing some level of harmonic content. I don't typically get overly arpeggiated. I mean, it's all in there. You know, as soon as you incorporate the thirds in a diatonic way, if you understand the series of how the chords work in a major key, or you know some of the basics of music theory, then you know which chords are intended to be major and which are intended to be minor, and you can sell that harmony by intentionally bringing in that third in some way, shape, or form. And that's a cool thing to do, you know. If done tastefully, it's a really cool thing to do, as long as it doesn't as long as the groove isn't sacrificed as a result of it, then it's cool. And it does a nice job of laying out the of really selling the harmony. Now I play in trio situations often, and adding that extra layer, that extra harmonic layer, is a very, very cool thing. The other thing that I tend to do is use slap bass in a tasteful way. But I typically don't go into a slap bass and stay there. I sprinkle it in within the context of a finger groove. So I'm constantly pivoting. If I feel that it would benefit from having some pulling and plucking, slapping stuff in there, I will pivot into it and right back out of it into the finger groove. You know what I mean? So I just kind of get in and get out, get in and get out. That way I'm not overcommitted to the slap, because if we overcommit to the slap, it can get jive real quick, you know. It's way more way more sexy and musical and tasteful if it's just, in my opinion, if it's just kind of like sprinkled in there, get in, get out, nobody gets hurt. You know, don't overcommit to the slapping, because in my experience, you know, in the past when I've overcommitted to the slapping, you know, it can kind of peter out, and it just doesn't have as much of a special kind of impact or musicality to it. It just kind of becomes it can become a little too elevating. It draws a little bit too much attention to the bass guitar. It's kind of a slippery slope, you know. If you do it in a tasteful way, it kind of draws a little bit of attention to the bass guitar quickly, and then you kind of step out of the spotlight a little bit and get back to the task at hand, the meat and potatoes stuff, you know, holding it down. When I do it that way, I think it comes off well, you know, for the band, for the audience, for the music, for the overall sonic value of what's coming out of the PA and everything like that. In situations where I've overcommitted, I feel like it was a bit too much, and I think that's the biggest problem with people, the way that they perceive slap bass, is that, you know, people overcommit, stay too long, it becomes too much, and then it turns into something that's annoying. Mostly because of what happens sonically. You know, like if it's going from, you know, this is like this real fat churning groove, and the subs are all lit up and everything like that, and it's just like pumping out the low end like the bass should, and then we start going. As soon as you start going back, now you're in all the high end side of the PA, and all that ass went away, and so just, you know, that's kind of my generalized take on it. You know, use it. But make it a special thing that just gets sprinkled in there. So that's another thing that I do all the time. I do like to incorporate some slap bass, and then I'll also do some power chord stuff often. And I'll put some grease on them too. Throw some power chords in there. You know, I kind of got that from Larry Graham, and then, you know, Les Claypool too. You know, a few well-placed Lesisms. The Les Claypool pachyderm thing, you know, where you're doing, it's sort of like borrowed from the flamenco, you know, kind of. Throw that in there every once in a while. That's a cool thing. And these are all just little things that I do that you could do too, that feature that create a very tasteful little way to make the bass guitar stand out. But just, you know, stand out for a second and then get back to business, if that makes sense, you know. Anything that we overcommit to that's flashy is going to get us in trouble. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a busy type player, just as long as it's tasteful. And it's like the matter of where and when, you know. Everything comes down to as long as it's not stepping on the toes of something that's more important at the time. So I tend to do fills, riffs, and these types of expressive little things. I tend to do them at the end of a phrase, or at the end of a section in the song. Where the natural place where a drum fill would be is the natural place where I put a bass fill. If it's right in the middle of the verse and right in the middle of a vocal, and the vocal obviously is the most important thing, then I'm staying out of the way. You know, I'm not introducing a bunch of new melodic content that's going to interfere with the vocal melody or interfere with the delivery of the vocal of the storyline. So I don't want to draw too much attention to myself or to the bass during that time, because the singer's trying to sing the song and tell the story. Now, there's situations where I will play notes that actually dance and actually meld with the melody, sometimes double the melody. And in that case, I'm supporting the melody, but I'm not being a distraction to the melody. Now, there's other times where I'll create counterpoint against the melody intentionally, and that is a good thing, and if done tastefully. But for the most part, when the vocals are happening, I'm just, you know, holding it down, you know, and doing the stuff that is going to be most supportive while that storyline is being told and delivered clearly. Now, at the end of the verse, where they're heading into the chorus, right there, that natural place in the song form, that's a good spot to do something. And you know, anytime, or at the outro of the song where it's, you know, kind of a vamp or something like that, that's a great place to stretch out with the bass guitar.